Well, let's head now to Parliament because the minority has criticized the Ministry of Foreign Affairs over its recent statement on the U.S. invasion of Venezuela, during which its president, Nicolas Maduro, was captured. In a strongly worded statement, Ghana condemned the actions of the U.S. and demanded the immediate and unconditional release of the Venezuelan president and his wife. But the minority, while supporting the principle and the theme of the release, warned the country against flexing muscles it simply does not have. Here are details of that statement coming up on your screens now that sparked all of this. It reads that the government of the Republic of Ghana is alarmed at the unilateral and unauthorized invasion of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela by the United States of America and the subsequent abduction of President Nicolas Maduro and his wife. Goes on to state the time of the incident, and then it goes on to state that Ghana expresses strong reservation against the unilateral use of force and strongly deplores such acts that violates the Charter of the United Nations and international law, as well as the sovereignty, territorial integrity, and political independence of states. The Ghanaian government is keenly following the situation in Venezuela with great concern and notes that such assaults on international law, attempts at occupation of foreign territories, and apparent external control of oil resources have extremely adverse implications. It goes on to state that Ghana also notes with deep concern statements by U.S. President Donald Trump that the U.S. will, quote, run Venezuela until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition, and that U.S. large oil companies will be asked to go in. They state in that statement that these declarations are reminiscent of the colonial and imperialist era. They set a dangerous precedent for the global order. Such colonial ambitions should have no place in post-Second World War era. So that is a statement put out by Ghana. It just wraps up by saying that Ghana is calling for immediate de-escalation and the release of the president of Venezuela, Maduro, and his wife. Well, that statement has been really in the public space, circulating. Individuals have been commenting about it. The deputy ranking member, for example, in the Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament and MPP MP for Busumi Freho, Nana Asafoije, says the statement sounded like a small animal barking at a lion.
Only area where I believe strongly that it could have been out of the statement and still the point or the whole menstrual of the statement would still have been clear was where the minister is ordering a release of the president. For me, it sounds like a puppy standing in front of a lion, a big lion barking. The minister is just flexing muscles when he doesn't have. Ghana in itself, since the inception of the minister, has been under the whims and caprices of the U.S. I mean, the U.S. tells you what to do, the U.S. orders you around, the U.S. engage you to do what they want to do, and a whole lot. So you don't have that muscle, you don't have that capacity to order the U.S. to, disengage or order the U.S. to release the Venezuelan president. You don't have it. But see, the subject matter is something that we all must and should look at. The world order. The UN Charter. You see, the UN, the multinationals are the only institution that is still keeping the whole world together. And if there are some rules, some laws, some decisions that have been taken by everyone or that every country is abiding by, and some big nations like US, Russia, and other big nations wants to, override those provisions and do things their own way it calls for a concern. We must be worried that should there be like, okay, Tinubu in Nigeria, there's some issues happening about the killing of Christians and all that. So the US just move into Nigeria and pick up Tinubu. We will not be happy. It's not a good thing. I mean, the countries, let's say Putin gets up and moves straight into Ukraine and picks up Zelensky. It's something that we need to worry about.
But Professor of International Law at the University of Ghana, Kojoa PJ Tuya, disagrees. He insists Ghana's condemnation of the U.S. conduct is in line with international laws.
Ghana, as a member of the international community, did the right thing, and I commend the president for taking that bold initiative to come out and condemn the act. And the language is also diplomatic. It is not insulting or done in a manner as to violate the sovereignty of the U.S. in any way. So as a member of the UN, Ghana has the right to do that. And I commend the government for doing that. As to whether there may be any implications on the country, I think it's any act the UN against Ghana for responding to such a situation will also violate international law. But Ghana is saying that might is not right, and that what the US has done, somebody has to speak against it. A number of countries have been quiet. Even the EU have been dilly-dallying. They don't know clearly what to say against what has happened in Venezuela. But somebody has to come out boldly and speak against that.
Well, Professor PJ Tuya also described the action of the U.S. as a flagrant violation of international norms.
It's really illegal. It violates the UN Charter. It violates various principles of international law, which may not be specifically mentioned in the UN Charter, but forms part of customary international law. Ghana is a member of the United Nations, and the United Nations Charter is clear that what the U.S. has done is in violation of the UN Charter because it constitutes aggression. It constitutes an armed attack on a sovereign state. And the president, the president who was captured, enjoys immunity as the head of state of a sovereign country. So the processes involved in having him captured and taken to the U.S. to face trial for on those narcotic charges are violently in violation of international law.